I have 30 pounds of Roma tomatoes here, and I'm going to make lacto fermented tomato sauce. We use this sauce on mashed potatoes and fried cabbage or zucchini. A byproduct of the process is this juice, which we use to flavor soups, stews, or curries. So we bottle the sauce and the juice in these beer bottles. And as you can see, the juice comes out, when it's been sitting for a while, it comes out very clear. And there's some sediment at the bottom there. This is from last year's batch. One other use for this juice actually is I use it to ferment grated beets or other vegetables. I've fermented beets, zucchini, or cabbage in this. So I just put the grated vegetable in a jar, then put the juice, just fill it, top it up with the juice, and then just put a weight on top and a lid and let it sit for a few days at room temperature. It actually works quite well for some vegetables. We wash the tomatoes and we blanch for 30 or 40 seconds. And then we transfer to a cold water bath. At this point, the skins might start cracking and peeling off a little bit. There's one. They kind of loosen up and they start to, sometimes they crack and start peeling. So to remove the skin, if the tomato is a nice one, it's easy. Just make a little cut under the stem end to loosen it up, and then a little squeeze and the skin just kind of slides off. So we chop the tomatoes up in the blender just for about 10 seconds on low here. Pour the puree into a bucket, and it's going to sit there for about 3 days probably, kind of till it stops bubbling. It's a good idea to leave probably a third of the bucket because it's going to expand as it ferments. So we're going to stir it every once in a while just to keep the liquid mixed in, and just let it sit there for a little while. So for this first part, it's good to have 3 or 4 sets of hands doing the work and get kind of a production line going. So this has been sitting here for about 20 hours. The pulp is separated a bit, so I just stir it. That releases the built-up gas and also prevents calm yeast from forming on top. If there is a little bit of calm yeast, that's just a kind of a white film. It's no big deal. I just stir it in. So it's been 3 days now. The bucket on the left has slowed down quite a bit, so I'm going to strain out the seeds and fiber. The bucket on the right is still bubbling quite a lot. I'll leave it for a while yet, probably another day or two. So I kind of do a two-stage process here. It's important to get as much of the pulp as possible so that the sauce is thick enough. So I just run this in the blender for a bit. I get as much as I can with the whisk, and I switch over to the spatula. I use that to press through the sieve. It takes a little while. At this point, I add salt. To get 2%, you need 20 grams of salt for every liter of sauce. So I stir that in, and then I'll let it sit for a few more days. After it's salted, the sauce will keep bubbling for a couple more days. So I just keep stirring it in. And what I'm waiting for is for the basically for all the pulp to start settling to the bottom, and the liquid will sit on top, and that tells me that it's pretty much done bubbling, and then I'll be safe to bottle it without making bombs. So this one's done bubbling, and I'm going to strain off some of the liquid. There's a bit of yeast buildup on top. If it was worse, I would probably try to skim some off with a bit of paper towel, but I'm just going to leave this one. So there it goes. This is nylon straining cloth. I think it's 250 microns. Basically a nut milk bag would work for this. So I try to strain out between 1/3 and 1/2 of the volume in liquid. This is a little thicker than the sauce will be at the end, so I'll just mix it with some of the unstrained stuff. Okay, so now it's time to bottle. So I fill the bottle right to the brim. And I cut these little plastic strips from plastic bags. And this prevents the acid from damaging the rubber seal on the bottle cap. So there's absolutely no air space in there. It's a little tight, that one. And it fell apart. So that never happened to me before. I think I had a defective clamp on this cap or something, so I guess I can't use that one. So I just have that plastic under the bottle cap, and that is bottled. One thing to remember, when you open this bottle, it's going to have some pressure and it'll just kind of start foaming out, so you have to have a jar ready to catch the sauce when it comes out. And that's it. So I figured out how to fix this bottle cap, these bottle caps when they pop off like that. It just means that it's not holding tight enough between these points here. So if you just give it a squeeze and just bend it just a little bit and then put it back on the bottle, that should tighten it up, and it fixes it. So I bottle juice in just the same way. For bottling, I mostly use these large 1-liter bottles, but I like to keep a couple 500 milliliter bottles around as well, just so I don't waste any product. So that's the process I've developed over the last 10 years. When I started, I used wine bottles with a little bit of oil in the neck, but air bubbles or gas bubbles escaping would carry some pulp up to the surface and create a bridge for mildew to grow down into the product. Then I tried using just bottles with plastic over the top and rubber bands to seal them, but there was always some leakage and evaporation, creating an airspace, and once again mildew would grow in the top of the bottles. So once I switched over to using these flip-top beer bottles, I've pretty much eliminated the mildew problem.